Wesley Huff is a Canadian Christian apologist and scholar known for his emphatic defense of biblical inerrancy and the historical reliability of the resurrection of Jesus. Lauded by some within evangelical circles for his engaging style and devotion to Christian apologetics, others see him as a purveyor of questionable arguments, someone they would label a grifter, leveraging faith-based claims, selective evidence, and emotionally charged rhetoric to garner attention, influence, and financial support. In this video we explore the points where Huff's critics believe he overstates or misrepresents the evidence, the ways in which they say his arguments fail to align with reputable biblical scholarship, and why some go as far as to call him a grifter. Huff often underscores that the New Testament is the best preserved work of antiquity, pointing to thousands of existing Greek manuscripts as proof of its near untarnished accuracy. He suggests that the text has been faithfully transmitted through centuries, thus preserving its authority and reliability. While Huff underscores the number of surviving manuscripts, over 5,800 in Greek alone, critics argue that more manuscripts naturally yield more textual variants. Estimates range from 400,000 to 500,000. These variants range from minor spelling errors to entire paragraphs like the pericope adulterae in John 7, 53:8-11, that may have been later additions. Critics say Huff glosses over how these discrepancies undermine any simplistic claim of a perfectly preserved text. Skeptics allege that Huff presents selective data, emphasizing evidences that support his conclusions while minimizing or ignoring conflicting manuscript traditions. They argue this approach parallels tactics seen in other grift-like endeavors, where only the most favorable facts are highlighted to maintain a facade of certitude. Although some fragments are very early, like P52, possibly dated around 125 to 150 CE, the earliest complete New Testament manuscripts date to the 4th century. Critics argue that a gap of hundreds of years opens the door for significant textual evolution, something Huff, they claim, downplays to preserve his particular narrative. Huff typically characterizes biblical contradictions, such as differing genealogies for Jesus in Matthew 1 versus Luke 3 and inconsistent resurrection accounts, as either resolvable or inconsequential. He maintains these variations do not detract from the core truth of the text. Genealogies of Jesus differ not just in order but in key ancestral names. Resurrection stories vary on who discovered the tomb, how many angels were present, and where Jesus first appeared. According to critics, if someone truly aimed to present accurate history, they would directly address these contradictions, rather than offering blanket assurances. Dismissing these issues lightly may signal a willingness to say anything to uphold a prior conclusion, a hallmark of manipulative rhetoric. Harmonization attempts, explaining away textual discrepancies by layering multiple conjectures, can resemble the defensive strategies of someone intent on preserving an income stream or brand image. Some critics view this as akin to spin, often observed in personalities engaged in religious profiteering. Huff's position. In public debates and online content, Huff emphasizes historical arguments for the resurrection of Jesus, asserting that Roman crucifixion methods guaranteed death and that the post-resurrection appearances cannot be explained away by hallucinations or myth-building. Critics view incomplete treatment of alternative theories. While Huff dismisses the swoon theory, Jesus survived the crucifixion, and hallucination hypotheses, critics say he glosses over the complexity of historical examples where crucifixion victims were known to survive if removed early. They also point out documented cases of group visionary experiences, such as Marian apparitions, that can mirror collective sightings of a revered figure. By simply declaring these explanations improbable without seriously engaging the nuances, Huff's critics contend he is prioritizing persuasion over rigorous scholarship, again hinting at motivations that might be more about cultivating followers and financial backers than about honest debate. Contradictory accounts. The Gospels disagree on timing, location, and the nature of Jesus' appearances. Mark's earliest manuscripts end abruptly at 16:8 with no physical appearances of the risen Jesus, whereas Matthew, Luke, and John add more elaborate scenes. Critics argue that Huff relies heavily on late or composite texts, a pattern they see as intellectually dishonest. In their view, an apologist who so readily overlooks proven redactions or additions is at best misled, or at worst deliberately misleading others for personal gain. Huff's activities. He frequently appears in public debates, YouTube videos, and apologetics conferences. He also collaborates with organizations that fund or sponsor evangelistic and apologetic work. Critics' concerns, sensationalism, and monetization. Critics claim that packaging dialogues with high-profile opponents or even moderate skeptics can be a lucrative endeavor, particularly if Huff's content is monetized or used to drive donations to his affiliated organizations. They argue that the pivot to more sensational topics like alien Jesus theories and conspiracy claims draws in a wider audience and fosters a cult of personality. This approach, say critics, aligns well with someone capitalizing financially on controversy, another aspect that leads them to call him a grifter. Legal disputes over content, use, rumors or allegations, unconfirmed but mentioned by critics, of repurposing debate footage without permission or misrepresenting opponents' positions point to ethically murky territory. Such controversies, whether validated or not, fuel the argument that Huff may be more interested in personal platform building than fair engagement. Huff's claims. He frequently presents Christian theological arguments as if they are historically settled facts. Huff's stance is firmly in the realm of evangelical apologetics, where the Bible's divine origin is a guiding premise. Critics' rebuttal: lack of neutral historiography. Secular historians or even moderate Christian scholars typically avoid concluding miracles as historical facts. They see miracle claims as theological matters not verifiable by the historical method. By equating theology with verified history, Huff is seen by critics as conflating faith-based convictions with empirical scholarship, a move they say can be designed to impress lay audiences while sidestepping academic scrutiny. Ignoring scholarly consensus. Many mainstream biblical scholars, even Christian ones, acknowledge textual and historical problems in the Bible. Critics say Huff glosses over or outright ignores this consensus, focusing instead on more fringe or partisan references. This can give unsuspecting audience members the impression that Huff's perspective is the norm among experts, when in fact, it is not. Deliberately skewing or cherry-picking scholarship is another behavior critics label grift-like. The critics' argument: financial incentives. Huff's work is embedded in a network of organizations and online platforms that depend on donations, speaking fees, book sales, and other forms of revenue. Critics see a potential conflict of interest, where sensational or overly confident claims are good for business. Misrepresentation of evidence. They point to repeated instances in which Huff presents only the most favorable data or sidesteps well-documented contradictions. Emphasis on personality over scholarship. The large online following, the buzz from debates, and the emphasis on brand building through YouTube and social media presence suggest a marketing mindset rather than a purely academic one. The counterpoint supporters argue that no matter how passionately Huff advocates for his positions, that does not necessarily make him a grifter. They say he is sincere, motivated by faith, and merely using modern platforms to spread traditional Christian teachings. They also note that many apologists operate within a donation-driven model, fairly common among ministries, without automatically implying fraudulent or manipulative behavior. Conclusion. Labeling someone a grifter implies deliberate deceit for personal or financial gain. Critics of Wesley Huff believe there are enough red flags, selective arguments, disregard for established scholarship, and potential monetization strategies that they question his motives. From their perspective, Huff's unwavering certainty about controversial biblical claims and his penchant for debate-driven publicity suggest the hallmarks of someone trading on faith for profit and attention. However, these criticisms remain allegations and interpretations rather than legally or empirically established facts. Huff's supporters see him as a genuine Christian advocate who, like many apologists, seeks to defend his belief system in a modern, media-savvy way. The debate ultimately underscores the complexities of religious discourse, where faith, history, textual criticism, and personal conviction all collide. Viewers are encouraged to review a broad range of scholarly views on biblical reliability, examine manuscripts, textual variants, and church history with academic diligence. Weigh Huff's arguments alongside those of professional historians and textual critics. Decide for themselves whether Wesley Huff is a sincere apologist or simply another figure capitalizing on religion for personal gain.